Hello and welcome to TSI Healthcare Solutions webinar with Transworld Systems, Inc. Cash flow solutions for your practice. My name is Chelsea Grover and I'm the Marketing Communications Coordinator for TSI. I'd like to take a moment to explain the process for today's presentation. First, I'd like to mention that this webinar will be recorded. We'll send out a copy of the slides along with the recording next week. At the end of the presentation, we'll open the floor up to questions from you. We answer all the questions at the end, but you can type them in the questions area of the webinar control panel whenever they occur to you. And finally, for audio clarity purposes, everyone's phone will remain muted throughout the entire webinar. If you experience audio issues, please use the chat box to let us know so we can resolve them. And again, questions may be entered in the questions box. So again, thanks for joining us today. From time to time, TSI Healthcare Solutions brings you educational or informational opportunities from one of our partners that we think you might find valuable. These solutions focus on increasing productivity or reducing costs or risks in your practice. As part of our Solutions Series webinar, we are excited to present this webinar with our partner, Transworld Systems, Inc. TSI has partnered with Transworld, the first agency in the country to offer fixed-fee in-house collection services to provide robust cash flow and collection services solutions for Nextgen PM. TSI partnered with Transworld to write the interface that facilitate the exchange of data between your Nextgen system and Transworld services. Presenting this is going to be Lisa Swan. Lisa joined Transworld Systems in 2003 and is currently a senior rep with the company. She specializes in working with clients and practices of all sizes, as well as small and regional hospitals, to help improve their workflow process regarding patient billing. Jason Bainey is going to help with the demo after Lisa's quick presentation, and Jason is the Doctor's Link specialist and is eager to show you how it works. Also, Joel Schultz from TSI will be on to help with questions at the end. Joe heads up the team that actually built the Nextgen interface, so he'll be able to help with all the Nextgen specific questions. So Lisa, I'm going to hand it off to you. Feel free to get started when you're ready.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Chelsea, and welcome everybody. We're going to try and move as quickly through these slides as possible so that Jason can get to his demo at the end. First, I'd like to talk just a little bit about some of the challenges that are currently facing practices in collecting the AR. And this first statistic was even surprising to me after 15 years in the industry, that 1 in 3 consumers in the U.S. have an account in collections. We also know that on the average, collection agencies throughout the U.S. recovered less than 13% of what was placed with them last year. Regulatory compliance is way more complicated than it ever has been. Personally, I've seen lots of different things be implemented, more rules, more regulations over the collections industry since I started back in 2003. And we also know that data breaches are serious and ongoing. On the average, a data breach in 2017 cost over $3 million. So why start now collecting your AR? This is a chart that is produced by the Department of Commerce, just showing what everybody really already knows, is that over time, the collectability of accounts decreases. And in fact, after 90 days, it decreases precipitously to the point where a year past due, you're collecting maybe 10 cents on the dollar. So being proactive with your accounts receivable is always going to be the best option. However, we also find that there's just so many hours in a day that staff has available to dedicate to collecting AR, and it's not always everyone's favorite task either. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction and a background, Transworld Systems, TSI, we've been in business since 1970. We currently manage a $25 billion service portfolio, working with over 35,000 clients throughout the U.S. One interesting thing is that we have over 65 compliance specialists working for our company. In many cases, this is more people than what many agencies have total for their staff. So it's a pretty large organization. We are committed to compliance. That means getting data and managing it securely, being in compliance with all HIPAA, PCI, FSMA, you name it. If there's an alphabet soup for it, we are in compliance with it. And it also has produced one of the lowest complaint rates in the collections industry. These are just some logos for some of our medical clients and larger medical clients that you might be familiar with. We work with everyone from single doctor practices up to large healthcare systems and everything in between. One of the things that we know that you deal with on a daily basis is that there are 4 different types of patient payers. So we're going to go through these 4 different types. So we know that there's the dutiful ones. These are the ones that pay right after the first, maybe the second statement. You really don't have to do very much in order to collect those. Just get a statement out to them. They're going to go ahead and pay it. Hopefully, this represents at least 85 to 90% of your patient base. What about the remaining 10 to 15%? Well, we've got 3 other types here. We've got those that are distracted. They have every intention of paying the bill, but sometimes it's going to take a couple of outbound calls or past due letters, and then they'll go ahead and get your bill, to front of mind and go ahead and take care of paying it. We then have those that we label disrespectful. These are patients who are actually waiting to hear from a third party before they're going to go ahead and loosen those purse strings and take care of paying. They may be under some financial difficulties. They may be playing triage with the bills. And this becomes one of those squeaky wheel gets the grease situations where you do need to have a third party contact them, because they're going to just ignore statements and sometimes not even open your statements. They just go straight into the trash. We have then hopefully with a very, very small percentage of your demographic that walks into your office knowing in advance that they are not going to pay for any services that they receive. But getting to sort through these different payer types and know how to handle each one in an appropriate amount of time, that's the challenge that practices are faced with. TSI back in 1970 came out with a 3-step approach to cash flow. So these are suggested timelines, but the majority of our clients are going to send 1 or 2 invoices. Some will send 3 before they get us involved. And then TSI, Transworld Systems, offers a very comprehensive pre-collect system that we have branded Profit Recovery. So we are going to make those outbound contacts on behalf of the practice, and we'll go into more detail on the next slide about what those contacts look like. But in this way, we're going to set up a very consistent method of outbound contacts, instructing those patients to pay the practice directly so that your staff not only stays in control of the activity, but we help streamline that workflow process, reduce the number of lookbacks that need to be taken, and ensure that we're going to make those contacts on a regular cycle for you. After we have run through that course of 5 contacts, if a patient still hasn't responded by paying the bill or setting up a payment plan, you then have that option of sending those accounts through to telephone collections. But you're going to know without a shadow of a doubt at that point that those are patients that truly need to go to percentage collections. So TSI Profit Recovery. As I mentioned before, we're going to make 5 contacts over approximately 65 days. And we have lots of different options, lots of different customization options. For what I have found is very popular with many of my clients is starting out with a letter that looks like it's coming from the practice, and then segueing to the collection agency branded contacts. I also suggest to my clients that we use written contacts mailed through the U.S. Postal Service, because we can ensure that way that we are actually making all of those contacts. We can intersperse calls with the mail demands if requested, and there's no difference in that pricing. Here's the challenge that we face when we are making calls. If we come up on a voicemail message from a patient that does not announce the patient or guarantor's name, unfortunately, because of HIPAA, we are not allowed to leave a message on that particular voicemail. So my preference is to do it through the mail. We are going to charge a fixed fee per account, so no percentage taken on the recovered dollars. This is just 180 degrees different from what you may be used to in using a percentage agency. So for a fixed fee that's going to vary based on the volume from the practice, so this fixed fee usually goes somewhere between $6 to $16, and that higher rate would be for maybe a single doctor practice that only refers 2 accounts a month to us. Most of our Nextgen clients are using higher volume than that, so the average price is going to be significantly lower than that. And we suggest that this program be utilized in the 45 to 90-day range when those accounts are at their most recoverable. We're going to instruct patients to pay the practice directly. We're going to provide the practice's phone number. In fact, if you have a direct number to billing, that's the preferred way of setting this up, so that those patients will call in if they have questions about the bill. If they want to pay with a credit card over the phone, they can do so. And if they want to set up a payment plan, they are instructed to call the practice. Go ahead and do that. You can take that first partial payment as their good faith deposit, and you can then suspend remaining activity and let that patient know that as long as they continue making their regularly scheduled payments, that you will continue to hold off any further collection activity. So we do a lot of coaching with staff that are going to be taking those inbound calls. We talk about setting up a particular process for, based on the outstanding balance, how many months out a patient should be allowed, absent financial hardship, and give a lot of coaching on how to use TSI in the background as the bad cop while they play the good cop, and get those payment plans and arrangements set up, and in order to keep those patients continuing to make payments and keep them from having their files escalated to the next level, which would be outside collections. We also, at no extra charge, will send a thank you letter to all paid in full accounts. Because we have referred the patient back to the practice to make payment, a lot of times that patient's going to ask, well, how does the agency know that this has been settled? And so if they're paying over the phone with a credit card, you can simply tell them that within the next 2 to 3 business days, that thank you letter will be in the mail. This will be their confirmation that they now have a zero balance, and the collection agency is aware of it and has closed out the record on their end. We also, in addition to the Doctor's Link interface, which is built right into the Nextgen software, we also offer a secure HIPAA-compliant website where you can view all current and historical activity. You can pull up all different kinds of reports. We refresh these nightly. In fact, you can even click into a particular patient record and pull up a date and a timestamp for every action that has been taken thus far. It's a very, very transparent process, and we provide you with all the data that you're going to need. There's several things that we do when we first process a file. Number one, we're going to run a bankruptcy scrub. The Doctor's Link interface provides us with the most recent date of service in the record, so we can compare that to any bankruptcy filing. If that bankruptcy has been filed since that date of service, we're going to automatically shut everything down, and we're going to provide the practice with the case number and the jurisdiction that bankruptcy was filed in. We also search the Postal Service's database of forwarding orders to see if that patient has recently moved and filed a forwarding order that you might not have been aware of. So if we pull up a new address from the post office, we're going to update our records. We're going to provide you with an online report, because we do not go backwards into your billing software, but we're going to provide you with the information in a couple different locations on the website, so that staff can go and review that updated address report and update your Nextgen database. The third thing that we do is, in case we are going to be making any calls on your behalf, we look at the phone number that has been provided with the record to determine whether it's a cell phone or a landline. Back in 2012, I believe it was, the TCPA regulations changed so that you cannot robo-dial cell phone numbers. We are very, very careful to make sure that any cell phone numbers are live dialed. And in fact, in some states, that even applies to landlines. So we know exactly how a record needs to be treated as we are first processing it for contact. The great thing about the Doctors Link interface is that there's no double posting into the TSI website. All accounts which are sent through the interface, as soon as you post payment into Nextgen, the next time you open up Doctors Link, it will automatically bundle those up and securely send those payment updates to us, which will then be reflected on our website the next business day. So this whole system is meant to keep your cash flow and your AR management under your staff's control. We know that there are lots of different things that you use automation for, and so why not payment reminders? What you'll find is that by using this program, not only will we save you money versus shipping these things out to a percentage agency and having to give up that percentage, but you're also going to find that for the pricing that we offer to make 5 full contacts if necessary is always going to be less expensive and more consistent than internal staff's efforts after the point that you've sent a couple of statements on your own. So what we are looking to do here is to limit the number of accounts that ever have to go to collections, get a good number of dollars in the door for the lowest cost possible, and maintain those relationships that you have with your patients. This is the softer, gentler approach to collections, and because we're keeping staff involved in the process, I'm sure you've all found that after you have sent something off to your percentage agency, now all of a sudden the patient wants to call and deal with you directly. And at that point, you cannot, because you've legally assigned your rights to that outside agency. With the TSI process, it's completely different. We are instructing those patients to contact you in order to resolve the bill. So let's talk a little bit about collections. Should you choose to utilize the TSI Collections Division after we've done the due diligence of making those 5 outbound contacts in profit recovery, they are going to get personal attention from our team of professional collectors. We have more than 1,200 collectors employed by our company. Those services would include skip tracing, just in case you did not have a good address and didn't realize that and sent something through and there was no forwarding order. If that demand or any of the demands in the series get returned by the post office as undeliverable, the TSI Collections Division would perform skip tracing, all asset discovery, any legal efforts if it has to go that far. As I mentioned before, we are one of the most compliance-conscious agencies in the country. Our data is secure. We've never had a data breach. And at that point that it would go through to the Collections Division, it then goes to a contingency fee structure. We have also developed proprietary scoring and analytics that we have branded CollectX. And this has been helping drive higher recovery rates for our clients that use our collections division. Very briefly, because we've been in business since 1970, we have a database that includes 880 million points of data. We are able to dynamically score our entire inventory on a weekly basis. So that if there is any movement up or down on these scores, that is an opportunity for us to immediately reach out to a patient and look to collect a payment from them. Since we implemented this proprietary analytics and scoring, our average recovery rate has been boosted 22% for our clients since implementation. You will hear from other providers of analytics such as TransUnion that they have about a 58% predictability score. We have tested ours at 88% predictability. So just a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes with our collections division. What you're looking at now is a report. We just had this run within the last several days. We put a particular association code onto each Nextgen client that is using the Doctors Link interface. We were able to pull this report so I could show it to you today. We'll go through the various pieces of this. So in the 6 years since this Doctors Link interface was first implemented, our Nextgen clients have submitted over 317,000 guarantor accounts. And I want to just restate briefly, we are working on a per account basis, not an encounter basis. So you'll see that the Doctors Link interface will bundle together all outstanding encounters that have a patient balance and allow you to send that over as one account per guarantor. Based on the volume of all these combined clients, the average cost per account for our Nextgen clients is running $8.56 per guarantor account, with an average balance of just over $315. And the majority of our clients are using us right at that recommended point of just over 2 months. So they've sent at least 2 statements at this point since EOB. So when we look at the total dollars assigned, there's been $100.1 million assigned to us. We've got $1.2 million that's still in process, going through the 5 demand series at this time. And so a net of $96.1 million has run through the 5 demand series. The total performance is $32.1 million, and we break this out by what has been paid in full, what has been canceled, invoicing that's been suspended while those patients are making payments, and the partial payment. So I've highlighted in yellow the cash that has come in through this program. There's been over $25.4 million in cash recovered. Accounts can be canceled for many different reasons. They can be canceled by TSI through bankruptcy scrub. The client can go ahead and cancel. Let's say that you billed patients for a self-pay balance, and during the 5 demand series, the patient comes back to you and says, oh, I forgot to tell you, I've got secondary insurance that you can go ahead and bill. So when you take that balance out of self-pay and reconvey it to insurance to bill secondary, that's going to automatically send a cancel code to TSI to allow you to go ahead and bill insurance and get it resolved that way versus us continuing to contact the patient for that balance. Accounts can be suspended at any point in time. So if that patient goes ahead and makes their first partial payment and sets up a payment plan with you, you can easily suspend activity on that account. If the patient does not make their next scheduled payment, you have the following 2 months after you suspend an account to reinstate activity. We will pick up in the series where we left off. There is no additional charge to reinstate activity on those accounts. Just make sure that you do it within the following 2 months after you place the suspend. And it's also very helpful when a patient does set up a payment plan to let them know that you are going to hold off all further collection activity at this point in time as long as they continue making their regularly scheduled payments. And that's really going to help keep the majority of them continuing on that payment plan. So you can see that we've had better than a 44% response rate. And at the very bottom, you'll notice that I've run collection cost as a percentage based on the total performance, which includes the canceled and suspended accounts, and then at the bottom, just based on the cash recovered. So $2.7 million has been spent to recover $25.4 million in cash, which relates to a collection cost of 10.7%. Unless you are among the very largest of healthcare systems, I don't think you are going to find that type of cost being offered by any other percentage agency around. So that's how we've done specifically for Nextgen clients using the doctor's link. What you will find is that we have found that over the years that in order to get the data to us in a timely fashion, it is really, really helpful to have an interface. And the doctor's link interface has just been one of the most elegant that I've worked with. And I work with clients that use all different types of billing software. I can tell you that this interface simply works, and it works consistently. And in fact, some of my clients have made suggestions over the years for upgrades, and those upgrades have been handled so beautifully and very quickly, and those upgrades have been provided to all TSI clients at no additional charge. So that's been really, really nice to work with them on that. I provided this last slide in here. This is just looking at by different types of specialties. Your results are going to vary by demographic and several different things. And the cost, since it is a fixed fee and does not vary, we normally find that anyone whose average balance is at least $100 or more is going to be able to benefit and save money using the fixed fee program versus sending those things out to a percentage agency. This is my contact information if you would like additional information or you would like a personalized consultation. I'm very happy to help out, work with anyone. There is absolutely no obligation. And at this point, I think we can go ahead and turn this demo over to Jason Bainey of Doctor's Link so that he can show you exactly how the interface has been set up to work.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Let me go ahead and pick the right window here. Here we go. All right, so I'm already logged in to Nextgen System here. So as we get you set up on the Doctor's Link interface to send accounts over to Transworld, basically we'll just add it into your system as a Nextgen add-on. And what that does is allows you to determine which user groups have access to the add-on and who can launch it. So this first splash screen will show you a bit of historical statistics. And let me go over some of the setup for some of the options we've got to kind of determine how the Doctor's Link interface works. We've got some of your basic just client setup, depending on how you customize your contacts from Transworld. We can configure the interface to accommodate how long that span will be. We've got some options to interact with Nextgen tasks, depending on what you've currently got configured in your system, or we can come up with ways to utilize your Nextgen task system to work with Doctor's Link to help you work through accounts. Whenever you submit accounts, we've got options to send other balances that roll over to patient responsibility if you want. We've got some granular options on when to send the thank you letters. And then also, whenever you submit an account to Transworld, we have options on turning off your Nextgen statements in your Nextgen system. We also have a few more options as far as how long to wait for those subsequent balances to get sent up to Transworld if you want to hold off on those when those roll over to patient responsibility. But the meat of the interface is going to be our account manager here. And those little splash windows that you saw pop up really quickly, those are just the interface automatically looking for any previously submitted accounts that have any kind of adjustments, payments, or changes, and those will automatically just get sent up to Transworld just by launching the account manager. Next up, so we're going to look for some accounts, and we can use the date of service date range or the billable date range. And when we set those, it's going to limit accounts that have encounters that fall within those ranges, but we will pull together all the patient responsible balances even if they fall outside of that range. Next up is the patient responsibility date, which we can set that as a number of days past due, or we can use the actual date that it became patient responsible. And it'll automatically update on both of those. We can filter out accounts that have a recent payment posted. So you can set that yet again to a number of days or the date of the most recent payment. The next filter we've got here is the patient due balance. We can set a minimum and then optionally also a maximum, or we can leave that open-ended to include any balances. We've got some excludes here to help filter out accounts that you wouldn't want to send up to Transworld. If you use the Nextgen budget plans, we can filter out any encounters that are in a budget plan. We can filter out accounts that have a third-party balances. So if they still have something pending with insurance, it'll cause those to hold up and not show up in Doctor's Link until that all pans out. And then depending on how you use the pre-list and bad debt process in Nextgen, we can filter out accounts that already have encounters that are pre-listed if they're already getting assigned to an agency. And then also if the encounters are already in bad debt, we can filter out the whole account if it has any bad debt encounters, or we can filter out just those encounters that were with bad debt. So we'll pull up any new encounters that haven't gone into bad debt yet. So once we've got our search criteria set, we're going to hit the Find button, and then that's going to query your Nextgen system for what we're looking for. So you can see it comes up starting out in just account number order, and of course all these data columns can be sorted ascending or descending. We've got the total charge amount, total patient past due, and then also the total patient balance. We also list the last pay date that was listed on the account, and so that's a popular one to sort by. We just added this oldest patient responsibility date, so we can see what's the oldest patient due balance and when did that become patient responsible. We've got a couple other columns to just kind of show you if there's any account or encounter unapplied credits. So we can see somebody's missed out on applying some payments there. And then once an account has been submitted, we'll log in. It'll start logging how many days, if it's been suspended, how many days that's been, and then whether any adjustments or payments have been posted. So now we also have these little plus signs here on the left for each account listing. We can branch those out, which gives us each and every encounter that's patient due that's going to roll up into this patient due balance. We can expand those yet again if you want to see the level of detail down to each charge. And then we can just roll that right back up. All right, so say we're ready to send Robert over to Transworld. We'll just select it and hit Process. Also, another option we have is if all 18 of these accounts have old pay dates, if you want to just send all 18 of these up without having to nitpick through them, we also have a button that'll set all these accounts to process. So it'll make it quick and easy. So I've made my selection there for one account to process. I'm going to go ahead and hit Process, which will bundle up all that encounter data, zip it up, encrypt it, and SFTP it up to Transworld. So now our statistics screen has updated to that one submitted. And if we come back over to Nextgen, we'll have an account alert added to the account that will show that it was processed, the batch number, the date, time, and so that way the next person who pulls up this account in Nextgen will see what's happened on this account. So then the next time you come into Doctors Link and launch the account manager, it's going to check on that submitted account and look for any payments and adjustments and automatically relay that on over to Transworld. And so now if we want to come back over and look for those submitted accounts, we're going to look for submitted and we'll find by that status. So say this patient has contacted you and they're making a payment arrangement. Here we can suspend the account. If for some reason you need to just manually stop the account, this will send a cancel. Or if for some reason you're getting behind on payment posting and you just want to manually send up a paid in full because the patient has paid their balance, we can manually set that in here as well. Typically, the main reason you come in here is just to suspend an account whenever you've made an arrangement with the patient to start paying on their balance. So I think that's it for the Doctors Link interface. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible and easy to identify and send up those accounts to Transworld that you've identified as past due.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. We do have some time left, so we're going to take questions. Again, you can enter any of your questions in the questions area of the webinar control panel, and we're just going to go through them in the order that we received them. So, first question. How long does it take to install?
The install process, once we have the details of your Nextgen system, whether that's hosted in the cloud or if you've got a server on site, usually it's like a 10 to 15 minute contact with an IT person, and we'll have it installed and configured and then ready to schedule training.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. How is training performed?
The training is performed pretty similar to this webinar through a screen sharing session. So that way we can go through on your individual system and walk you through the entire process.
I'll just add to that once the interface is set up and we do all of the training to show clients how to configure their Doctors Link to conform with the criteria and filters that they want to set for their practice. After we've submitted a first couple of accounts and those then show up in the TSI site the following day, we schedule a second training session so that clients will go on to the TSI website. We can show them how to pull up all the data on the TSI site, how to manage their reports and alerts. In the case of, say, a patient disputing a balance, they'll be able to upload documentation to TSI so that we then provide that to the patient as we reinstate activity on a particular account. And I'm also the first line of defense, if you will, for clients that have any questions or need additional staff training or bring on new staff and want new staff trained on any aspect of Doctors Link or the TSI site. We also have a full client support team if there's any other things that need to be handled, such as pulling a particular record before it gets processed that evening. And we have an online support ticket system for that as well. But I work personally with all of my clients on an ongoing basis to answer any questions or continue training as necessary.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa.
And there's no charge for any of what Jason provides after installation or what I provide.
Perfect. And it looks like this may be our last question, but we'll hang out just in case anybody's in the middle of typing. How does it, or no, sorry, does it work with Nextgen 5.9, and how do you keep it current?
It sure does. Fortunately, keeping it current has been pretty simple since the dollars and cents and the dates of service, basically most of the data we're digging into has remained fairly static, quite locked in by Nextgen. So we do keep on top of testing with the current Nextgen versions, but yeah, I think since 5.6 to 5.9, really haven't had to make any adjustments to the interface due to Nextgen keeping the fields that we're digging into quite locked down.
Okay, great. Well, Lisa, thank you for doing this webinar, and Jason, thank you for the demo. I appreciate everybody who took the time out of their day to join us today. As a reminder, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Lisa. Her information is up on the screen. You can also reply back to any of my emails or any of my invitations to webinars, and I will make sure that your questions get answered there as well. So thank you, everybody, and I hope the rest of your week goes well.
Thanks, everyone.